say, what were the things that the African countries did right? What did they do wrong? How do we build on all of this and learn lessons so that we can keep Africa rising? So let me talk about 6 things that I think we did right. The first is managing our economies better. The 80s and 90s were the lost decades when Africa was not doing well. And some of you will remember an Economist cover that said the lost continent. But in the 2000s, policymakers learned that they needed to manage the macroeconomic environment better, to assure stability, keep inflation low in single digits, keep their fiscal deficits low, below 3% of GDP, give investors, both domestic and foreign, some stability so that they'll have confidence to invest in these economies. So that was number 1. 2, debt. In 1994, the debt to GDP ratio of African countries was 130%. And they didn't have fiscal space. They couldn't use their resources to invest in their development because they were paying debt. There may be some of you in this room who worked to support African countries to get debt relief. So private creditors, multilaterals, and bilaterals came together and decided to do the Highly Indebted Poor Countries Initiative and give debt relief. So this debt relief in 2005 made the debt to GDP ratio fall down to about 30%, and there was enough resources to try and reinvest. The third thing was loss-making enterprises. Governments were involved in business, which they had no business being in. And they were running businesses, they were making losses, so some of these enterprises were restructured, commercialized, privatized, or closed, and they became less of a burden on government. The fourth thing was a very interesting thing. The telecoms revolution came, and African countries jumped on it. In 2000, we had 11 million phone lines. Today, we have about 687 million mobile lines on the continent. And this has enabled us to move forward with some mobile technology where Africa is actually leading. In Kenya, the development of mobile money, M-Pesa, which all of you have heard about, took some time for the world to notice that Africa was ahead in this particular technology. And this mobile money is also providing a platform for access to alternative energy. You know, people who can now pay for solar, you know, the same way they pay for cards for the telephone. So this was a very good development, something that went right. We also invested more in education and health, not enough, but there were some improvements. 250 million children were immunized in the last 1.5 decades.